Hi, Fossil. I'm Parker Bennett, and I'm here today with the SRO, Officer Holpuck. We're sitting right now in the Performing Arts Center, and we're going to ask her a few questions from the sophomore advisories. Tonight, in the pack, you can see Addams Family, which performs Friday and Saturday, so please help support Fossil. But right now, we're here with her. And so the first question that we have is, quickly, if you could sum it up as easy as possible, what is your job as an SRO?
Well, obviously, the primary duties of an SRO is the safety and security of the school, so that's why you'll see me walking around and checking doors and hollering at kids for propping doors, because we don't want people coming in doors that they shouldn't be. But other than that, I'm a resource for the community, so I'm here to help school administration with different discipline issues that come up, not necessarily that I'm writing tickets for everything, but I'm a resource and just that learning tool of kind of helping you guys learn what you can and can't do and where the boundaries are, and kind of helping you along with what your rights are. And so any of those questions that come up, that's one of the things I'm here for you guys, is just to come ask those questions and help you through with issues that you're having.
Awesome.
Yeah.
During busy school hours, how do pedestrians and drivers, what sort of things can they do to minimize accidents?
Be aware. Know what's going on around you. Don't be focusing on your phones, especially whether you're driving or walking. Obviously, you're not supposed to have them when you're driving because you can get some consequences there. But just being aware of your surroundings and going slow in our parking lots. The speed limit is only 15 miles an hour in our parking lot for that reason, because we want you to be able to slow down for pedestrians or anyone else that's maybe not paying attention.
Okay.
So,
is it legal for the SRO or Ken to search your car?
Well, for me to search your car, I need what we call probable cause, so I have to believe that there's something in there. So if I'm seeing something in plain sight in the vehicle, then yes, I can legally search your car. If there's drug paraphernalia or something on your seat of your car, then I would have legal justification to get in and search the car for anything else. The school just needs reasonable suspicion to search any of you or your property that's on campus here, which includes your car. So if we're getting information that kids have drugs or something in the car, or even if Ken is seeing something in plain sight, then yes, school administration can go out and search on a little lower standard than I can. And then most of the time they're still asking your permission, you're still there. We're not searching cars without you present. Lockers are probably the only thing that really gets searched without you guys present, but as far as backpacks and you yourself, there's always someone else present in the room.
Is it legal to use the bike lane to turn right onto Ziegler from Harmony?
No, it is not. However, people do. It's just going to kind of depend on who's there watching and if you're going to get pulled over for that one. But you really want to make sure you're watching for bicycles and stuff like that, and just wait your turn.
Okay.
For the light to turn so you can go and make your right-hand turn.
If you accidentally run over an animal, what should you do?
What should we do if we accidentally run over an animal? Well, I think the kind and caring thing would be to pull over and check on the poor thing. If it's a domesticated animal, obviously you want to try to see if it's got tags. You can find someone that owns it or something. If it runs off, you don't have to go chase it through neighborhoods or anything. If it's wildlife, if it's in traffic and obstructing, we usually call animal control or Division of Wildlife to come out and clear the roadways and stuff. But most of it's wildlife that seems to be getting hit. But
okay.
If it's a puppy, get out and take care of it.
If you get pulled over and you do not have your license, what should you do?
Well, you could get a ticket if you don't have an actual license. You can also get a ticket for not having it with you. But most of the time, the officers are going to run your name and date of birth through our database system and find out whether or not you have a valid license. Okay. And if you've been pulled over and you've been discovered you don't have a license, it's probably for something else, so you may still be getting your speeding ticket or whatever, and it would be a warning on whether or not. And it kind of depends, too, on which officer pulls you over, because everyone has their own way they do things.
Okay. Which parking lot can be used by the sophomores, and which parking lot is specifically the senior lot?
At Fossil Ridge, we do not have a specific senior lot. However, the first little bit where staff parking is what seniors kind of have claimed as their own. So I think it's more of a peer pressure type thing that goes on around here, that if you're parking in the seniors parking lot, they're probably going to razz you quite a bit.
Okay.
But as far as a violation from Ken, you're not going to get anything from, unless you're parking in visitors or staff. Obviously, if you're parking in the handicap zones, then that can be an issue as well. But those visitor and staff tickets are quite pricey, so you want to make sure that you're not parking there. Even if you don't have a parking pass or you forgot it, still park in student parking because that's only a $10 ticket and it's easier to get waived versus you parking in visitor because I didn't have my parking pass. And that's a $50 to $60 ticket, so
Okay.
don't want to do that.
How much is a parking pass?
Parking passes are free. So all you need to do is bring us your license, registration, and insurance over to either Ken or I, and we can get you a parking pass issued. Now, if you lose it or something happens, you want another one, we charge you $5 for the additional one, but your first one is always free.
And why are the speed bumps so high?
To slow you all down. We had lots of problems with speeding, and obviously there's still some of it that happens out there, but they're there to slow you down.
Okay. Most commonly, what do you give tickets for? What is like the most commonly
Here on
occurring thing?
campus, you think, or just in general out in public?
Here on campus, probably.
Here on campus, the big one is usually no parking permit. We see a lot of those get written, and then also parking in staff or parking in visitors are the big ones. But we also do write the careless or speeding tickets. Ken and I will go out there and do traffic occasionally. I guess occasionally I go out and help Ken. Ken's always out there. But he also has a radar gun in his car, and so he will write you guys the speeding tickets. And those tickets through the school, we've cut in half from what the actual violation would be out on the street if I was to give you a real city ticket. So, the $50 tickets that you would get on the street are only $25 here on campus.
Okay. And just for fun, what is the most common ticket that you give in the community?
In the community, for me, probably speeding, but I don't get out and about to write too many tickets, but I think that's probably, if I was to look at everybody else's, our traffic unit and stuff, speeding's the big one that gets written.
How important is it following the 6-month driving rule when you get your license and you can only drive other people in the car? How important is that rule?
Well, it depends on how much you like your money and your license, because if you're getting pulled over and you've got people in your car that you're not supposed to have, it's a $50 ticket, and then if you continue to violate, then they will suspend your license for it as well, so you may not be driving at all. So I guess how much you like your money.
If you had maybe to estimate how many accidents occur at Fossil annually?
Annually, well, I would say there's probably an accident that happens on campus daily. What gets reported to me, usually on average, probably once a week.
Okay.
We'll go through phases where I don't have any that I'm taking, and then I'll have 2 or 3 accidents in a week that I'm taking on campus here. With private property accidents, it's just paperwork that we fill out. Usually there's not a ticket that's issued unless there's some type of careless driving or reckless, somebody's injured. Those are ones where tickets would actually get issued. But I just help with the exchange of information and making sure people's property is getting fixed. Either if you guys meet, your parents decide that they want to just get together and fix it, or if it wants to go through insurance.
Okay. We're going to take sort of a break. We're going to wait for some more questions to come in.
All right. Send us some questions, people.
in the Performing Arts Center of the school where Adam's Family is actually going to be performed tonight and Saturday. But right now, we're here with Officer Holpuck, and we're going to have questions coming in from the sophomore advisories. So to begin with, if you could sum up your job as an SRO, what do you do?
Well, my primary duties are the safety and security of the school. So you'll see me wandering around the halls, making sure that doors are secure, and if you guys are proper in the doors or letting people inside doors, then my job is to remind you we shouldn't do that. But also, we address any of the threat issues that would come in and stuff like that. And then the other part is just being a resource for the staff here and for the students and the family and the community. So, I'll take calls from the neighborhood, saying, hey, the kids are speeding through the neighborhood, or, parking in my parking lot, we want them over here. We get some of that stuff. But my big job is just really being a resource for you guys and helping you guys understand your rights and responsibilities as you become adults, and what you can and cannot do kind of stuff. We don't always just go straight to issuing the tickets. We try to find other ways for you guys to learn and to get around that. But there are some things that are pretty black and white that tickets have to be issued for, and you go to court. But drugs is one of the big ones that you'll see on that black and white list. But yeah, that's kind of the overall job of what we do, and some of it's getting in the classrooms and teaching and doing things like this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
During busy hours, how can specifically high school drivers and pedestrians work to minimize accidents?
I think the big thing is to be aware. Be aware of your surroundings. Slow down in our parking lot. The speed limit's 15. It's that way for a reason, because we want you guys to be safe. We don't want someone to accidentally be hit. Don't ride on top of cars. Stuff like that's dangerous, obviously. But if you're walking through the parking lot, stay off your phones. I always tell my kids put their heads on a swivel, because you want to pay attention to the cars around you, because who knows what's going on in that car. Sometimes people are distracted by their phones, which they shouldn't be, because you can get a ticket for that. But there's other distractions in the car, whether you have some passengers in there with you, the radio, you're trying to figure out which parking spot you want, you're trying to remember to slow down for the speed bumps in the parking lot. There's just a lot going on, so we ask everybody to pay attention to what they're doing, and it'll help keep people safe.
Awesome. Do tickets on campus put points on your license?
No. If they are issued by the school, it is just that money comes back into the school for different programs and stuff that happen here. So the school will put that back into different projects or different, what do you call the assemblies that you guys do? That kind of stuff. The money goes back into that we collect from the parking lot fines.
Okay. If you are at a crosswalk and a pedestrian is there and you stop your car, but the pedestrian waves you through, what should you do?
If the pedestrian's waving you through and you're sure the pedestrian's going to stay there, then yeah, you can go, because obviously they're not ready to cross. But the good thing to do is to stop and wait for them and give them the option. Okay. Especially if somebody's already starting into the crosswalk, you want to make sure you're stopping.
Okay. Why are the speed bumps specifically so high at Fossil?
That's the way they got installed. I don't know construction-wise if there's a specific height or not that they do those at, but obviously they were put in to slow people down, because we were having a lot of problems with speeding. You'll still see some of those problems along that outer edge. So that's why Ken and I are out there running radar occasionally to remind you all to slow down, and that the speed limit's only 15.
Okay.
So it's for safety.
Which parking lot can be used by the sophomores, and which one specifically is the senior lot?
Well, technically, the sophomores could use any lot they wanted to. The only places students aren't allowed to park are in visitor parking or staff parking, which are marked out there. This visitor parking is in the circle, so we don't want students in there. And then staff is, senior parking is really kind of that front area where staff parking is. So you're probably going to be razzed more by the seniors if you're parking in there than you are from Ken or I. Even though there's a section on that ticket that says senior parking, it's a district-wide ticket, so Pooter and Rocky and some of those schools do have designated senior parking. However, we just never have here. It's just kind of a cultural thing and a peer pressure. Don't park in our stuff. So I guess if you don't want razzed, don't park in that front little area.
Okay. Is it legal for the SRO or Ken to search your car?
Yes, within parameters, obviously. For me to search your car, I need probable cause to do so. So I have to have evidence that your car contains some element of a crime. A lot of ways that I get into those cars is the plain sight doctrine. So if something's sitting on the front seat of the car, or we can see it from inside, whether that be a weapon or some type of drug paraphernalia, that's going to give me probable cause to search your car. I just can't go because, oh, Parker, I'm going to go search your car today. It's not going to work out so well for me. And the same with school. The school's not going to come up and say, Parker, we're going to go search your car today. They're going to have some type of reasonable suspicion. So usually there's some type of report or concern that you may have brought something to school today that you shouldn't have. And so at that point, the school just needs reasonable suspicion to go out and say, Parker, you need to come out with me and look through your car. And if that gets refused, then you're usually going to lose your privileges to park on campus at all.
Okay.
So those do get revoked. But I mean, most kids have been pretty good about letting school search their car. Those kids usually don't have anything in their car. The ones we search and find things in, it's because it's been pretty obvious.
Okay.
And we are able to do it more on probable cause that I have and pull the things out of their cars that they shouldn't have.
Okay. Who do you work with the most closely in the school?
Really kind of our main team would be the dean, so Miss Oswald and I work pretty close, and then Mr. Lowry, Ken, and then Mr. Waters as well. Okay. Are my main people that I work closely with, yes.
Okay. Can you park in the visitors after school hours?
After school hours, yes. During school hours, no.
Okay. And how much do parking passes cost?
Parking passes are free. So all you need to do is find Ken or I and bring in your license, registration, and insurance, and we will get you a parking pass issued. Now, if you lose them or something happens, you want a second one, then those ones, the additional ones, would be $5. Okay. But your first one is free, and it's a pretty simple process. We just have you fill out a form for us. We're going to be looking to make sure your license, registration, and insurance are valid, and then we'll issue you a parking pass. So just find one of us.
Okay. If you get an offender bender in the parking lot, what should you do?
Well, you definitely want to exchange information with the person that you got in the accident with. If it's an unoccupied car, if you come in and let us know, we can usually figure that out by their parking pass number or their license plate. But anytime you get in an accident, the license plate's one of the big things you want to get in the habit of recording because that's the identifying mark of that car. So if that person were to leave or something, you'd at least have the information of who hit you. But if you're, getting into that accident, hitting someone else, it is your responsibility as well to exchange information. You're not supposed to leave a scene. You're supposed to attempt to report that. So you can come in and report that to Ken or I. If we can't find the other person, it's something we can follow up on the next day. It's not gonna, if you got to get off to work or something, we can arrange some of that stuff to happen. It's a private property accident, so we really just exchange information, fill out some paperwork to document it, and we don't issue tickets on private property as far as the police department's concerned, unless there's something that's, careless or reckless, somebody's injured, stuff like that, then there may be some tickets issued.
Okay. If your car gets dented and you don't know who did it, what should you do? You
can also come see Ken and I for that. We do have cameras in the parking lot. Sometimes we are able to figure out how that happened. Door dings are pretty common, but every once in a while we do have kids that are backing out of a parking space or pulling into a parking space and hit the car next to them, and they get scared and will go park somewhere else. So we're able to track that down via cameras.
Okay.
Most of the time. Sometimes the view is just not the greatest, but we try.
Other than locking your car, how can you take extra measures to prevent your car from being broken into?
Locking your car is obviously the best way to do, but then keeping valuables out of sight. You don't want your laptops hanging out in the seats. You don't want, just anything that's valuable, purses, bags, stuff like that would tempt people to go through your car. Or at least try to get in. Most cars that are broken into are broken in because they're unlocked. It's just easy access.
Okay. Is it legal to use the bike lane to turn onto Ziegler from Harmony?
No. Nobody likes to wait, but you're supposed to wait. You're not supposed to make that right turn unless there's an actual turn lane. So obviously, if there's bikes there, they've definitely got the right of way. People do it. Whether or not you get a ticket for it just kind of depends on if someone's patrolling the area, but the way the law's written, no, you're not supposed to.
Okay. In terms of driving in between 6 months of your license and having other people in the car, How important is that rule?
It's important because if you do get pulled over, I don't know how much you like your money, Parker. Every time you get caught, it's $50. You're going to have to pay the city for that ticket that you get. And that's going to be on top of whatever else reason you got pulled over for. So typically, we're not pulling you over because you got 5 people in your car and you look young. We're going to pull you over because you're speeding. Or you made a wrong turn onto Ziegler. Different things like you're going to have some type of moving violation that we pull you over for, and that's an additional $50 fine.
Okay. On campus, how many accidents would you say occur annually?
Annually, I don't know that I can give you a number, but they happen probably daily. On average, I probably take at least one a week as far as an accident report, but there are a lot that don't get reported to us as well. A lot of kids will just exchange information and parents will work things out, but there's a lot. So be careful out there again, and pay attention, be slow, pulling in and out of parking spots. That's the big one that we see is backing out of a parking spot. And if you're across from one another, we see the backing into each other quite often. So look behind you.
If someone hits a person and doesn't stop or stay at the scene, what should you do?
If they hit a person?
Or if they hit a car. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So if they're running into a car and the other car leaves, or?
Yes.
Okay. Try to get a license plate number if you can, a good description of the vehicle, and then you can call the police department and report that someone just hit you and ran. It's called a hit and run. And if somebody does leave the scene of an accident on a hit and run like that, it is a 12-point ticket. So most of you guys at the younger age are going to lose your licenses just for a hit and run. So you always want to stop, make sure everybody's okay, and you need to exchange information at the least. And then, if it's out on a city street, you want to call the police in to investigate as well. And it just protects both parties in there to have that third party in and kind of help determine what's going on. But you don't ever want to leave the scene of an accident. But if it happens to you, do your best to get the best description of the other car, and license plates are the number one thing that we can do, which way they're going. And so when you do call 911, you can give us that information, and hopefully we can find them. Any witnesses that stay on scene, kind of get their name, numbers, stuff like that.
Okay. Cool. Is it legal for people to ride in the bed of a moving truck?
Yes. They have to be seated below the top part of the truck, so they can't be sitting on the edges of it. But if they're seated down in, then yes, it is legal in the state of Colorado.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Can using mouthwash make the breathalyzer test seem like you're drunk?
It can, yes. If you just used it. Because we've played with them and tried it. Sorry, my radio's going to go off. But yeah, it will give a positive result. But usually if we just let it sit for a little bit, have the person drink some water, and we'll get a normal result after that. It doesn't last long.
Okay. If you're pulled over without your license, can the police look you up, or are you done for?
You're done for. No, we can look you up. So we will run you through our system. We just need your correct date of birth and name. So you don't want to be lying about any of that stuff, because then you could get in more trouble there. But you will come up in our system. Depending on who the officer is pulling you over, they may or may not give you a ticket for not having it on you. That's something that could happen, but most of the time they're still going to probably write you the ticket for whether or not were you speeding, did you not stop at a stop sign? That's the ticket you're probably going to get, and a warning on the other.
What happens if you actually run into an animal?
An animal. Well, if it's wildlife, not a whole lot. Unfortunately, it happens a lot. But animal control or Department of Wildlife will come out and help us clear the roadways from some of those things, especially if they're larger. But you know that most of those small things just kind of stay on the side for the life cycle to take over and other animals to come eat them. But if it's somebody's puppy or a domesticated animal, stop, see if there's anything you can do to care for the animal. If it's clearly gone, if there's maybe tags or something, you could always try to call someone. Sometimes there's just not much you can do, but I think those are the ones that are hard when they get hit and freak people out.
What do you do if your car breaks down at a stoplight?
Breaks down at a stoplight. You want to try to get it out of traffic as best you can. If you know it's going to happen, pull off to the side. Obviously put your flashers on. Sometimes other citizens will help you push it out of the way. But you can call the police department and we'll come over and help as well. just to kind of keep traffic off of you and stuff like that. But I mean, most of the time people have cell phones and are able to call for help, which makes it a little easier to get people out of traffic.
Okay. Do you need to use your turn signal in roundabouts?
Do you? I don't know. I'm like, do you? We all know which direction you're going. So, I mean, even if you're trying to turn out of them, you can. I don't know that you need to, because we all just kind of go the same direction, and it's pretty obvious. Some of them that have dual lanes, you may want to if you're turning, because it just helps other people entering know that
Okay.
it speeds up the process, I guess, a little bit.
Do tickets on campus put points on your license?
No, they do not. That is a school-issued ticket, so those tickets are taken care of on campus, and that money goes back into the school for different activities and stuff, whether it be assemblies or activities that you guys do as students. So that just comes back to the student body. Unless I write you the ticket on a city ticket, then it will be points on your license. And I can write 7 of those.
What would you say is the most common ticket that you get on campus?
The most common is probably the, probably parking and staff or visitor, and then the no permit parking. So the tickets are cheaper if you don't have your permit, I don't know, you just haven't gotten it yet, or you forgot it for some reason, you switch cars. Always just still park in. Apparently we got some music done. I know, jazz break.
No, it's cool.
So if you just still park in student parking, it's only a $10 ticket versus the $50 to $60 ticket for parking in visitors or staff. So it's better to do that. And then you can, if you forget it, you can always go into Ken's office too and fill out a little yellow form and just leave it on his desk, and he won't write you the ticket for that day. But it's just a temporary thing, so then you still have to come find one of us to get those permits.
Okay. Is looking too young to drive a valid reason to actually get pulled over?
No. But it doesn't, I mean, if you have a broken windshield or you have a taillight out, or, you know, your license plate bulb's not on, or you have something hanging from your rearview mirror, there are so many reasons that we can pull you over that we can find something besides you looking too young. Yeah, so that doesn't happen.
If you had to sort of make a guess on average, what is it that specifically new drivers make a lot?
Well, speeding, I think, is a big one amongst newer drivers. But then just turns, not being familiar enough with the car. And their turns are too wide. That's where we end up with a lot of the parking lot accidents, because we're not judging where that front end of the car is when we're trying to turn into a parking space. You know, making those corners a little too fast. Those would be the big ones that we see.
Okay. Does the 6-month driving rule with your license apply to family members?
No, it's only for people that are not related to you.
Okay.
So if you wanted to bring your little sister to school, you could do that. Or if you needed to take her home, stuff like that.
What about a step sibling?
Step siblings, as long as they're in your home and they're your siblings. So.
Okay. What is the most gratifying part of your job?
Helping people. I think that's just helping solve those crimes and finding a solution to people that have been victimized. Whatever type of crime it is, I mean, from your most extremes to the littler things of helping people get property back. That's probably been the most gratifying to me, is just being able to be there for people and find a solution and help them move on.
Okay. Would you say, on average, how strict are most officers with speeding and giving speeding tickets?
You know, our traffic unit, that's all they do. That's their job. They're supposed to be out doing traffic at all times. So they're going to be a little more strict on what their guidelines are versus patrol officers or even myself. I mean, we do traffic when we've got extra time to do so. Most officers are at that 10 miles an hour or over. So if you're speeding 10 or over, and you get pulled over, you're probably gonna get a ticket. We may reduce it down to a lower fine and just write you for 5 over versus the 10 or higher over. But those are gonna be, it really depends on the officer. Everyone has kind of their thing that, oh, I'm pulling these people over, and if I pull this one over, then they're definitely getting a ticket.
Okay.
So it's hard to answer that one.
Okay. What is officially his title, Ken's title?
He is the campus security officer.
Okay. Is talking on the cell phone while driving illegal?
Yes, you're not supposed to be talking on your phones. Texting is the one really that you're going to get the citations for. Talking on the phone, it depends on kind of how distracted you are. But anything that you're doing in your car that distracts you, whether it's talking on a phone, texting, you're eating a sandwich, trying to mess with the radio, try to put music on, any of that stuff, you can be pulled over for distracted driving.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be, well, everyone that's talking on a phone, if you're actually talking on it, you're probably not going to get a ticket if it's not distracting your driving.
Okay.
But if you're texting or fumbling trying to dial the phone, that's when you're probably going to get more issues.
Okay. If both lots at the school are full, where should you park?
Where should you park? Well, that usually happens sometimes towards the end of the year, but you want to look for your parking spots. I think a lot of people forget about the far parking areas over there by the tennis courts and stuff. Usually that's not full, but you got to drive around. You can park out there on SaberCat if need be, if we're overfilling, but that happens very rarely.
Okay.
But you can also park along the streets on the outside with
For-
SaberCat.
Okay. For some sort of vandalism to a car, like keying or egging, what are the consequences for that?
Criminal mischief, if there's damage to the vehicle, and then it just depends on how much damage is done, so what the dollar amount is to fix that. It depends upon the level of crime, because criminal mischief will start off at a misdemeanor 3, and it will go up into felony levels depending on the dollar amount.
Okay.
So in egging, sometimes we have to be able to prove that there's actual damage to the car.
Okay.
But we can get you for criminal tampering on that part because you caused an annoyance to somebody.
If you have probable cause to search someone's car, can they refuse you?
No. If I have probable cause, it's going to happen.
What are your thoughts on honking in the car parking lot?
It's annoying. I don't know. If you need to warn somebody that someone's there, but other than that, I mean, I don't think we have a huge problem with it. I don't know, is there a huge problem out there?
I don't think so.
All right. So if anything, it's annoying, but okay.
Are students allowed to park at the new park that's being built?
No, if you are here to go to school, you're supposed to be using our parking lots. So that's what it's provided for. The park is going to be there for the people that are actually there to use and enjoy the park. So we don't want to fill those spaces up. So that's why if we need to, we can park along SaberCat if the parking lot is completely full. But we do want you guys in the parking lot.
Okay. How many people can legally be in someone's car at one time?
However many seatbelts there are in the car. So if there's 3 seatbelts in the back, you can't have 4 or 5 people back there. If there's only 2 seatbelts in the front, only 2 people can go up front.
Okay. When is it okay to go left on a blinking yellow arrow at an intersection?
When the coast is clear.
Okay.
So you don't want to make a left-hand turn in front of oncoming traffic because you will get the ticket for that accident.
Okay.
So if it's blinking yellow and it's safe to do so, make your turn.
Okay. Is it illegal to have something hanging from your rear view window?
Yes, not supposed to have anything at all in your rearview mirror that's hanging down anyhow. Obviously, our parking passes go up there kind of behind it, but anything that hangs down below it is what will be illegal.
Okay. How can you determine if a car in the visitor parking lot is actually a student?
Well, we have cameras out there, so we usually can see the students walking in. Ken is very good at knowing what kids drive, and so he watches whether or not students are coming to and from. He pays attention to if that same car is there day after day, who is it, and then we can also run the license plate number on it through our database to find out who it belongs to and go from there.
How strict are jaywalking laws in Fort Collins, and what are the consequences of jaywalking?
There's not per se a jaywalking one. If you are obstructing the highway of somehow and stopping traffic, then there is a consequence there. I don't know what the fine is on it, but there is a ticket we can write for obstructing the highway,
Okay.
which is any roadway.
Before you were an SRO, what was your job? What did you do?
I worked patrol on
Okay.
the street, and then I also worked in the jail. So I've been doing this it'll be 19 years
Wow.
come August, yeah.
Wow.
Kind of craziness.
Can you explain the double blinking red lights at a pedestrian crossing?
The double blinking lights. So if they're solid red, you've got to stop. So then the best one I can think about is the one that's over there by Fort Collins High School and the McDonald's. So if it's solid red, it's like any other stop sign or stoplight. You must stop and you must wait until it changes colors, right? So when it changes to the blinking red light, then that is where you still have to stop, and then you may proceed if the intersection is clear.
Okay.
But so if there are 10 cars in line on that blinking light, you have to treat it like a stop sign. So everybody that comes up to that red light has to stop, make sure it's clear, and then proceed.
Okay. How do you feel about self-driving cars? And do you think they're a good or a safe idea, possibly in the future?
You know, I have some of those features on in my personal car, and you know, when it rains or it snows or the light gets in the camera's weird, it doesn't work. So it'll give you warning lights on your dashboard. So those are my concerns, or how are they going to bypass some of those safety features of things happen that are out of the ordinary, and most of the times I think that technology is great and it works well, but you add some of those other elements and it's not working well. So that's my hesitation is, I think somebody's always going to have to be in a car, and you can't just totally be asleep at the wheel.
Is it a traffic violation to mount a curve and drive over?
Well, yeah, you can't be driving on the sidewalk. I'm just trying to think where that question was going. Yeah, you can't drive up over the sidewalk.
Okay.
I'd have to look to see what traffic violation it actually is, but I would probably more classify that as reckless or careless driving, especially
Okay.
if there's somebody at risk that may be on the sidewalk.
Okay.
So.
If you are allowed to disclose it, what's a funny story that's happened in your history as an SRO at Fossil or anywhere else?
Funny story. Gosh, I don't know if I can think of anything. Like, there's just weird random stuff that happens. You can't make this stuff up. It's just people that think that they can do things when they shouldn't be. You know, you're like, what are you doing? But I can't think of any specific examples at the moment. I'm not good at storytelling, I'm sorry.
What can people do to be better safe drivers?
Really just pay attention and know the limitations of your car and your driving abilities is the big thing. Know what's going on around you. Put the cell phones down, put the distractions down, and drive. I mean, that should be your main focus. And be respectful of others. You know, some people have bad days. Sometimes we aren't paying attention and we turn in front of somebody that, oh gosh, darn it. You know, say you're sorry, move on. Don't be mad at them. Stuff happens. You know, versus there are the road rage incidents that happen, but just be aware.
Okay.
It keeps you safe.
On a daily basis, what would you say happens usually?
You mean at school here, you think? Or
What does like your schedule look like?
I don't really have a set schedule. I mean, besides showing up when you guys get here in the morning and going home when you guys go home, it changes every day. You know, some days I'm helping Miss Oswald on several things. There's other days that I'm just able to get out and wander the building and make sure that doors are secure, whether that be exterior doors or the classroom doors. You know, talking to people about just the safety drills and stuff that we do. Talking about kids about nothing. I mean, we talk about life and how things are going, what they did over the weekend, and just kind of that, building those relationships with people.
Do you usually feel connected to most of the students at Fossil?
I do. I think I have a pretty good group of kids that I know. I don't know all of you, so hopefully as time continues on, we can get to know more of everyone, but the candy bowl is officially empty now in the office, so
Well,
usually that's why I have the large crowds, because there's chocolate in there.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
We have to wrap up now. This was awesome, I think. I think we learned a lot, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you guys for asking all these questions, and shout out to Morehouse and his class. We were supposed to do that earlier. All right, thanks, Fossil.
Thank you, guys.